Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to today. This is a briefing as a follow-up to what has gone on in Anambra over the last 24 hours or more. I think from the morning of yesterday, we made good our promise to the Anambra to have a clean, green, and livable society. A society where there is rule of law, where there is law and order, and where the planned cities, the few planned cities that we have, that we must respect the plans as they are, where impunity has no place. We began the process of desilting or demolition of illegal structures that are causing tremendous harm and damage to our society. Onitsha, which is the largest city in the southeast, and I would say one of the largest in Africa, as a matter of fact, that used to be home to everyone. It's been bastardized, the master plan bastardized by people who just deliberately, with impunity, just build everywhere and with no consequence. We must have a society where there is consequence. And let me say this. Yesterday, we made good our promise to begin the process of demolishing several of these illegal structures, in Onitsha particularly. And particularly to be able to open again the waterway that goes into the River Niger. Over the years, people have, with impunity, built houses, all manner of houses, including churches, along the waterway. And the consequence has been that the drainages are blocked. Water, these floods, during the rainy season in particular, no longer get into River Niger. And then the streets and the roads are flooded, killing people every year. Killing people every year. People die. Properties are destroyed. Our roads become emergency rivers whenever it rains. But this cannot be done. We began the process of reclaiming back our state, taking back our city, rebuilding our nation. Our urban regeneration cannot gain traction without cleaning the waterways, getting the place clean and green. And we began that process yesterday. But it began with wide stakeholder consultations. First, on the 1st of April, all the buildings that actually block the waterways were all marked by the Fiscal Planning Authority of the state. On the 1st of April, they were marked with a lot of noise and news around it. Those affected knew. On the 20th of April, I sent my deputy governor to go and hold literally like a town hall meeting with all the landlords affected. Those who didn't come sent representatives. On the 20th of April, on the 5th of May, I went myself to Onitsha and had a town hall meeting with Onitsha landlords. So it's a full day thing. But in between there were like 10 days of public announcements by the Anambra Broadcasting Service to the people, to know, for the public to know. Even the deaf in Anambra knew that these properties along the Sakamore and many other illegal structures have been marked for demolition. We pleaded with the owners to please remove these things by themselves. And 3 good months. They were supposed to be given 2 weeks. 3 good months. April, May, June passed. We gave sufficient time, sufficient notices, sufficient everything. But of course, in a world where people are used to impunity, people thought it's business as usual. The government would just make noise and go away. It will never happen. Of course, when we assured the Anambra, we are determined to restore law and order to Anambra. We are determined to build this livable and prosperous government. And it must start with restoration of security, restoration of law and order, where rule of law prevails. And so yesterday we began the process. And the process began with trying to demolish several of these. And I want to report to you that so far, so good. So far, so good. We've achieved tremendous results. And the people have cooperated largely, except one incident that happened when to one prophet, Odumeje, whose church was, I think a chunk of the church happened to lie on the same waterway, marked. And he himself spoke severally to the deputy governor about the fact that the place was marked. So he knew about marked demolition and so on. And so yesterday when they now came to make effect of the thing, I understand that, he drove into the place. Rather, this is the account I was given by the agencies, security agencies, is that he drove into the place in a very menacing manner and almost rammed into the security officers themselves, and came out and went to accost the guy who was driving the machine, the equipment, with intent of stopping him from going on. And of course, the security agencies had to, intervene to maintain law and order. And incidentally, in the process of it, I saw in the video that I think he was manhandled because, as I said, he was adamant and trying to be very aggressive and so on and so forth. Why we don't, excuse or say, okay, whether it's manhandled or this is a society of rule of law, so to speak. Everybody is entitled to justice and fairness and so on and so forth. And whereas he is entitled to be treated fairly and in a humane way in the circumstance, but let nobody, dare to doubt the resolve of this government and the security agencies to maintain law and order. To maintain law and order. If you go to challenge the authorities will reply you. We've been fighting criminality all over, and I want to tell our citizens, these law enforcement agents have been fighting to keep us alive. They're putting their own lives on the way. They are still putting their life on the way to help us to clean our places and so on and so forth. And let nobody, they also deserve to be treated with decency, respect, and so on. They should be honored. And the Anambra State respects our law enforcement agents. And we will continue to support our law enforcement agents. The citizens, no doubt, have their own rights as well. We encourage our law enforcement agents, to the extent possible, to treat ordinary citizens with the decency that they deserve. But I dare say to people who trade in impunity and who say nothing can ever happen, to the extent of going to dare the law enforcement agents and dare to want to physically stop the ongoing demolition efforts, so that nobody should doubt our resolve to keep this state safe and orderly. And I tried myself. In fact, when I had the account of what happened, I called him myself. I placed a call. I called. It rang out yesterday, and I called him again this morning. I wanted to hear personally his own side of the story before we could make a determination. I'm sure if he looks through his phone, he will see my missed calls. I called him because, every citizen, I'm governor of everyone. And so I intend to hear from everybody and be able to make a balanced and fair judgment. But the truth be told, they were sufficiently informed. Everybody knew that this would happen. He himself had tried to want to ask, okay, probably, Bobby talk to our deputy governor. I've been following their conversations and his own stuff. So he knew that this was coming. But unfortunately, this must happen regardless of whose fault it is. And what has happened so far, ladies and gentlemen, is that when I say that it's been going on so far, so good. For example, that Holy Ghost intervention church involving part of the gate fence and so on and so forth is the one that is directly being brought down, blocking the drainage channel. There is almost estate fence wall, which was within the stipulated setback, that has been also done. St. Dominic Catholic Church, figure, involving the old fence wall and shops blocking the drainage channels, have also been brought down. You know, and several shanties, structures along St. Dominic and Dumeje Wangene drainage channel have also been brought down. And then structures, shanties, and fence wall along Wangene drainage and so Biafra market entering River Niger. Those have been also done. And shanties along Akonna, Ojete, Silas Walks, Wally Walk, Fege, and Onisha South drainage channels have also been dealt with. Now we have the area at Bulekwe area of Silas Walks. That's also been dealt with. And just as we were talking a few minutes ago, they were actually going to Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church also to take out the portion of the church premises that interfere with the drainage channel. Everybody, and there is a Pentecostal church, I understand, also along the way. It will also give way. It will also give way. I think there are 2 Catholic church parishes along that channel. All the parts that impinge on the drainage way are being taken away. And I understand when they went to St. Dominic yesterday, the Reverend Father in charge actually granted interview. They're very cooperative. They knew, everybody knew that this was going to come. And everybody knew and still know that this is in public interest. We can't have a society where, the waterways, the drainage ways, Anambra's existential threat is the environment. The flooding, the cause all manner of erosion, killing people every year. And now we want to solve the problem. And some people want it to continue as it used to be, with people dying every day, with people, every year, and properties being damaged, and erosion sites developing everywhere. Of course, it just got to stop. So all I want to say to you, Ndeba now, is that so far, so good. The demolitions will continue and until we clear Sakamori. And let me also say this. To all those who have their illegal structures, unapproved structures in the markets, some people are building structures in places where there should be public parks. You take the main market, you go there, they have almost filled the parks there with all kinds of structures. Some of them, there is one that was ongoing, and I personally spoke to the developer, and that place has been marked. As day follows night, it will come down. Even if they build it a 100-story building, it must come down. Impunity must stop for us to have a decent society. And this is what we're about, fighting criminality and impunity. That's the foundation of society. And without it, nothing else will happen. And God